What up, Saiyan Squad? It's your boy Bino coming at you. My first deck profile. So before we get into it, we're gonna treat you guys with 2 booster openings. I'm hoping to get a signature card or maybe a Beerus, a Piccolo God. Do it this way. Go black. Kill. Okay, so shiny uncommon and the rare, all too easy.
Okay, not a bad first opening.
Not too bad. I mean, got a foil at least out of that one. And the last pack. Started off with the same card in the front. Okay, this one's okay. It's not bad. Oh, nice. Shiny Piccolo leader. And nice rare. So, not too bad. Not too shabby. At least got 4 out of those 2. So, I'm running Piccolo Jr., which is the one from the structure deck. It's a fairly basic leader. That's when it attacks a leader card, you draw 1 card. And its awakened side is that you get to flip 2 energy and go ahead and flip it. Now you're always going to be wanting to self-awaken, as this is a very aggro deck when it's awakened. You can go ahead and once per turn pay a green energy, choose a level 5 or lower and KO it, and it gains 5k. So you're going to be swinging for 20k plus 1 from the drawing. Now to get to the main deck, which I believe any Piccolo deck should run these. We're going to run 4 Assimilates. It's a 0-drop energy that lets you search for a level 2 or lower NAMEKIAN, yellow or green. So you're going to have a lot of targets with these, as well as having access to your super combos. So 4 of those. Mando. 2 of these. These are good against U6 or anything that floods the board or has large field presence. It has deflect, so it can be counterplayed. And you also get to draw a card, so at worst, that's all it is. At best, you can pay 2 energy and nuke the field for level 4 lowers, ignoring barrier. So you're not going to be using this as often, just mainly because you also flood the field with 4 lowers. So you'd be killing most of your own field. But it's good to have an easy way out against other counterparts, you know? 3 Gohans. Mainly because you need to be self-awakening. This gives you access to that, and it's nice for early pressure. You're always going to be you're going to be swinging for 15 to crit, and your opponent needs to combo out of that. No one likes to lose a life to the drop area. 3 Dende. This lets you search the top 3 and pick a NAMEKIAN, so this gives you access to most of your deck, as most of it consists of that. It also gives you access to your bigger boss monsters, as Assimilate doesn't give you access to that. So if you need to search for those bigger ones, this lets you do that. I do run the Now engine in this deck. I feel like it comes out fairly consistently. This is very good also for another boss monster that I'll show you later. The effect being is that when you combo with it from your hand, you can play it in rest mode at the end of the battle, as long as you burst 2. And then it also has an effect that active main, you can choose another NAMEKIAN, place it under it, and it gains 5k for the duration of the turn. So this has 2 effects for this deck that I'll show you later in a bit. An MVP card would be Now, the NAMEKIAN Ace. This has a bond too that it gains 5k and you get to draw a card. So since you like to flood the board, you're always going to be triggering this effect. I run 2 Speed Attack Piccolo Jr. 15 crit, that's basically it. Pretty simple. Another MVP of this deck would be this one, NAMEKIAN Dual Garena. This is basically a recycler and a heavy hitter. Once per turn, you get to choose 1 NAMEKIAN card from your hand, place it under it, and it means 10k in crit for duration of the turn. So you're going to be recycling NAMEKIANs that you don't need and drawing for it. It's also very offensive. 4 power barrier Piccolos, 15 barrier, very simple. You want to have a lot of Namekians in the field, so you want them to stay, and that's one way of having that. My super combos, I run 2 and 2. Reason being is that if his effect was to be negated, he doesn't gain the 10k. Whereas even if his effect was to be negated, he still gains the 10k. And this one is better in the way that if you have 5 or more lives, this is just 4 or lower. So just 2 and 2. One of the best cards in this deck for sure, that makes it pretty liable, is Plan Namek. Now, most of these cards that I just showed you are level 2 or lowers, and this is going to let you spam that out. You get to pay 1 green energy, drop a card, and look at the top 5 and special summon a level 2 or lower Namekian. So most of the targets I just showed you are up for that. It's going to be saving you a fairly good amount of energy and giving you access to cards that you don't even have in hand. Since I run the No engine in this deck, I have to play this card. Now this card does require for 2 Namekians to be under it. So what you want to chain around it is these 3. You don't have to worry about having yellow energy, as he has to evolve with 2 colorless on a nail. So these are your targets. It has a sparkling 5 effect that you can choose one card from your life, add it to your hand, and you get to switch 1 card, ignoring barrier, to rest mode. So this gives you self-awakening abilities. Now, it does have a second effect that if it has 2 Namekians under it, it gains barrier and double strike. So when you evolve it, let's say on this one, and you have this one out in the field, you can go ahead and activate his effect to place it under it. It gains double strike barrier, and it's at 25. And if you decide not to put it under it for whatever reason, if you don't have maybe the nail out, you can still activate that sparkling effect, which can get rid of annoying barriers, or blockers, I mean. Two Comics Power Piccolo. This gives you pretty ease of access to get rid of big boss monsters if they don't have barrier. It has a Bond 2 effect that you can once per turn choose 1 card and KO it. Pretty simple, but it does have double strike and barrier, so it's also a big heavy hitter. Two King Piccolo Lord of Terror, which comes from the structure deck. You'd be surprised how often you pull him off, and he does become a 3 cost when there's 3 Namekians on the field. When he comes out, you also get to KO a level 5 or lower. So not only is he removal, but he comes out for a 3, and it's a 25 double strike. So it's a big heavy hitter. The last of the boss monsters would be Reign of Terror King Piccolo. This is for a 5 energy. You bring him out, it has a dual strike, and then what you like to combo off is that you can activate its effect, switch 1 energy to active mode, place it in the drop area, and summon a level 4 or lower monster Namekian from your hand. Or I mean Piccolo. So you usually want to drop this one, but if not, if you just want to go for a game ending, let's say they're at 1 life, you can pretty much drop any Piccolo that you have in your hand. But you want to have this usually out for that target. And finally, the counter lineup. We run 2 Shocking Deathball. It has Sparkling 5, so it gives you that self-awakening ability. It's mainly for removal. You get to pop a level 2 or lower. I run one of the best negates in this deck, or in, I feel like, any deck. It's pretty much a free negate. If your leader card is a Namekian, you can just take a life and negate it. So you pretty much have access to negate any attack whenever you feel like it. And the one-off for the greater good. Just the simple fact that you can discard it and still have access to it is pretty good. And not only that, but you get to KO a level 1 when you activate its effect. So if you use it for Plan Namek, let's say, just to drop it, it's going to be a free drop, pretty much.